We're going to look at 12 trendy running backs from week 2, project out for what they're going to do for the rest of the year. Look at some of these guys you may want to get off waiver, some of these guys you want to trade for. Overall, we're looking at strategy with these players. We're using the next-gen charts from NFL.com to look at what they did on the field, where their carries went, and everything else. Before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. Tap it with the finger on the phone, click it with the mouse on the computer, because we're going to go deep on the waiver wire this week, because we got some big things to talk about. We're going to be talking about Isaiah Pacheco. We're going to be talking about those wide receivers who hit. It's all going to be right here, and we use these videos also to help you set your lineups, and we do that later in the week. Click that button. Stop missing out. But our first running back is Brian Robinson, and he's getting workload, he's getting opportunity. They're using him up the gut. Him and Austin Eckler, he went off for 133 yards. The workload's there for him. He was a cheap get in the middle rounds. You're happy about that. You can't buy low on him right now, but in those matchups like this one right here in week 3 against the Giants that are a little bit sketchy, he's going to get workload, and if the Commanders can move the football, he's going to be moving the ball, moving the chains, and getting more opportunity. Devin Singletary got a lot of opportunity in this matchup. He was a cheap get in drafts, and he scored more than what I projected. I was projecting around 10 to 12 range, and I think that's going to be his average week to week anyways. But this was a game script that we were looking at prior to week 2 that might break open, and it broke open in just weird ways here. Devin Singletary got some opportunity here, 16 catches, not a lot of targets, just one. But in weird games, expect him to do something. He's at least getting a lot of touches. Zach Charbonnet did not get a ton of fancy production. He did get some workload. Tough run game for the Patriots. They're going to lock down a lot of running backs this year, but a lot of teams are going to decide to pass on them. That's what the Seahawks did. That's what they showed to us for fantasy football. So Zach Charbonnet, like I said in the wide receiver video, teams are going to start passing on the Patriots because they're going to start locking up these running backs. Jordan Mason is this year's Puka Nacua. It's just kind of camouflaged a little bit because it's not over the moon yet. But he is productive. He is getting the workload. He is getting the touches. He is looking good in this role right now. And he's going to be a league winner right now. He's going to get a lot of people over the hump because he's that free square off the waiver wire. Ty Chandler's got speed to burn. He may not get enough workload right now to be a big-time fantasy asset, but he's a supreme handcuff due to that speed, due to the explosiveness. Any given matchup, he could go off. And that being said, if something happens to Aaron Jones, everybody's going to run to him off the waiver wire. And if you do not have one of those top stashes and he's on the waiver wire and you want a stash, this might be a guy you want. Rhamdondre Stevenson's getting the work, and he's going to be a very reliable running back week in and week out due to how much work he's getting. 25 rush attempts last week, 21 this week. He's just getting opportunities. He's also getting used in the passing game again. 8 targets in the last 2 weeks combined. That's solid workload. He's probably going to be one of the top running backs in fantasy football if he stays healthy. Antonio Gibson got some run. He looks electric. He looks explosive. Probably a trending name off the waiver wire this week. And if something happens to Stevenson, he's going to get the workload. And he's a guy that does well in the passing game, but he's so explosive that he can go off on any given week, because if he sees the ball in the open field, he could house it. Rico Dowdle's not getting the workload. I don't think you want any of these running backs. One of these running backs from time to time will cross the goal line. That's just how this is going to work. But none of them are explosive enough. None of these guys are league winners. One gets hurt, and you're going to want that running back because they'll get workload, but they're not going to be explosive enough to win your league, but they'll give you some good production here and there. Again, when it comes to Zeke and Dowdle, you're not really excited about it. J.K. Dobbins is officially back. This is back-to-back games. This is looking good. I said going into the season that you want to draft them, and then over the first 3 games, you'll know what you got. We know what we got, and we got J.K. Dobbins back, looking good with good vision, good pop in the step. Shout out to this young man. Zamir White is getting some work, but it's not enough to be fantasy relevant. It's not explosive enough to be fantasy relevant. You're still watching him because this isn't a great matchup. It wasn't a great game script last week, so you're watching the next few games, but you don't want this Raiders backfield. Travis Etienne is explosive. He gets work. He'll get some runs on the outside. He can pop them. This was a nasty matchup. So even in a nasty matchup, say against a team like the Browns, he can still score you some fantasy points, especially if he can cross the goal line. Josh Jacobs is getting a ton of workload with Jordan Love out. That's to be expected. They paid up for him, and I told you guys over the offseason that they paid up for Josh Jacobs, and they're going want to use them, and they're using Josh Jacobs until the wheels fall off. That being said, if they're going to continue giving him this amount of touches, we got to see going forward, because it was a little bit lower in week 1, then you may want to pick up one of those backup running backs, because he might go down, because most running backs getting a big workload like this, they get nicked up, and you may want to look at the waiver wire as a handcuff if you got a spot to fit them, because if something happens and he's starting to get 32, 25-ish carries per game over these next few weeks with Love out, you may want to invest a little bit in this backfield before something happens. If you got a spot, if you can make it happen, wouldn't be one of my top stashes, but if you need a stash, that might be a strategy to look at with running these running backs. But those are 12 trendy running backs that could help you for fantasy football. Looking at trades, looking at waivers, looking at the production, looking at the workload, and things could change over time here. But the thing is, we're going to have more waiver wire content coming at you this week, starting tomorrow, starting later today, as we jump into these unique videos, going deep into these prospects. Carson Steele versus Samaje Perine is going to be a big one. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.